This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Hey guys, today I've got my hands on the Leica SL2-S. And this is the, I guess the sibling to the Leica SL2 because they share the exact same, they're like identical twins, but one just looks a little different. Like the SL original and the SL2, the SL2-S is incredibly intuitive. It feels fantastic in the hand. My hand just naturally goes right into this nicely rubberized grip. My thumb falls perfectly onto the little joystick and this little jog wheel. My finger is like right on the shutter and then right on this little dial up here. With the SL2, they did not change the screen to be an articulating screen or a flip out screen or anything like that. And I feel that I would much prefer if these buttons were over here, that they were separate from the screen and the screen flipped out, you know, or articulated or did something. And one of the things you guys can see here is look at the size of the eyepiece, okay? The eyepiece is fantastic. It's great. It fits the eye really well. I love the way that the diopter is kind of just built right on there so that you just turn it and that's all you need to do. You don't have to find some little dial or nubbin over there. But because it sticks out so much that if you're like a waist level shooter or want to do some waist level shooting, you really can't because the eyepiece is in the way. 24 megapixel sensor versus the 47 megapixel sensor. I think the 24 megapixel sensor on here is fantastic. I think the image quality is gorgeous. And because of the smaller megapixels count, you're able to have larger pixels, which are more receptive to light. And therefore, not only do you have a greater ISO capability, which now is the range is from 50 to 100,000, whereas with the SL2 it's 50 to only 50,000 only, right? Which is crazy to think like that we've gotten to that point where 50,000 is like, you know, a normal ISO range and 100,000 has now become the new normal. Even so, this is going to produce cleaner images along that same path. So once you start getting into even ISO 400, 800, you're going to start to see differences where this will produce a cleaner image. And those differences are going to continue to become more apparent as you go up the ISO range. Unscientifically, I compared some files that I shot with my Canon R5, which is a 45 megapixel sensor. I compared some images I shot at ISO 400 on that camera with images I shot at ISO 400 on this camera, and I will say that the ISO 400 images from the SL2S were cleaner. And not in a clinical kind of a way. They just looked nicer. They looked smoother. And even when I had them just up next to one another, my eye was just drawn to the SL2S file. I'm also using this SL2S in combination with the Leica Summicron Apo SL, I don't even know how that order is. It's the Apo Summicron SL 50mm lens. This lens is incredible. This series of lenses was designed by one of Leica's top lens engineers. These lenses are designed to produce absolutely stunning images, beautiful micro contrast, incredible bokeh, sharp all the way across the range. So you can shoot this lens at f2 all day long, you're going to get sharp images and so on and so forth. And just the size of it, the balance, it's a really terrific combination. What are you gaining? What are you losing? You know, who's this camera for? Well, I would say that because of the ISO capability and the fact that you're able to get cleaner images at higher ISOs, this is for a photographer that prefers to shoot in natural light and is not somebody who is reliant on lighting, because you'll be able to bump the ISO without having to be as concerned with noise. So if you're a wedding photographer, if you're a photojournalist, if you're a reportage, if you're somebody who's out there and wants the camera to be able to, you know, handle all those varied situations, this camera is going to do a fantastic job. Are you really losing much between the 24 and the 47 megapixel sensor? You know, I don't really think so. The 47 megapixel sensor, yes, you're going to get more resolution, absolutely. So that means if you're a photographer that does a lot of cropping. If you're, you know, an editorial photographer and you're constantly shooting wider because you need to crop your images down, well, you're going to lose a lot more information from your 24 megapixel file than from your 47 megapixel file. If you're a landscape photographer, architectural photographer, product photographer, and you just, resolution is your game, you know, or you're somebody who just does everything with studio lighting and you're not worried about, you know, the natural light and the high ISO capabilities, then maybe the SL2 is the better choice. So from a financial standpoint, this is not like a remarkable savings, but what you are getting is you're getting the same exact professional camera. It is professional build quality. It is professional in all of its capacity. Leica is planning a major firmware update for the SL2 and the SL2-S that's going to dramatically improve autofocus. However, it's still going to be contrast detect. So we have yet to see what that result will actually be. Oh, one other thing, video. I know that this is being touted as somewhat of a hybrid camera. I know that a lot of manufacturers are doing that now. So like they have their higher resolution camera, you know, and then they have like the lower one where they're saying, oh, it's hybrid, it's got better video specs, blah, blah, blah. I absolutely love this camera. I think the image quality is fantastic despite some of the shortcomings that I mentioned. And I would love to be able to add one of these to my systems. I'd also love to know your guys' thoughts. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And we'll see you soon.